Hello, this is Jared playing Oxygen Not Included on this tilted asteroid. In the last episode, I set up a protected area here for some rockets. One of the rockets is out in space, creating some databanks over there. And in this episode, I plan to build a research reactor. I've cleared out this spot for it. So let's start the construction. First thing I'm doing is putting a petroleum liquid lock into two spots. The middle area is going to be a vacuum, protecting the cooling area that's going to exist over here and the rest of the base, but also allowing Radbolts to be able to get out. And this is where they're going to be exiting, maybe removing this, and put some Radbolt engines over in this area. So I filled this in with tiles, and as I start to break this up, I'm able to get a vacuum area. Just right here. Just carefully make sure I don't ruin my vacuum as I go along. Yeah, so I've got the vacuum area here set, creating a floor. And a little dip down area here. This is where the research reactor is going to be. There's going to be a vacuum underneath this just to prevent temperatures from getting out. I put these, just marking how long this is going to go. I'm going to have 10 steam turbines. Those will be built. I'm going to put insulated ceramic tile across this. But I'm going to build everything up. I'm going to ultimately create a vacuum inside here because I want to have only steam in the future. Two ways to do that. I can either pump it out, but in this case, with all my rovers, I'm trying a different area. I want to fill everything in with tiles and have my dupes go in from this side and clear everything out by destroying that. We'll see how this works. So working on this floor, going to keep building it up. And also putting this area here. This is going to be a similar liquid airlock made out of petroleum. This one's going to be for the dupes to go down, while the one over here is for Radbolts to get out. So now with two pieces of petroleum here and here, I can start the process of building a path, creating a vacuum that's going to lead in between these two zones. Just building this floor up piece by piece at a time until everything is completely filled in. Here's the path the dupes are eventually going to be taking down. I'm building a ladder on this side that I can essentially get the dupes in here so that they can create a vacuum all around this zone. Sorry, I'm just watching these rovers jump over and it's like a mesmerizing dance. Maybe I'm getting a little bored with this method, but I kind of there's either this or the pump out method to create a vacuum. Kind of thinking I like the pump method, but this is different, and I want to kind of see how this one. Oh my God, they're burying their dead rovers in the ground. All right, enough of this. So I don't have the full tiling system in place yet, but I can already start in the vacuum process over here. And here's the rover that's creating their vacuum all the way along here. Screw things up just a little bit. Tile by tile. While the rest of the rovers are up here, extending this wall layer by layer. Starting the process for digging out the vacuum on this side of the system. And this is going to be the steam area where the actual nuclear reactor is. The bottom part here is going to be the vacuum, actually permanently, just for maintaining temperature on both sides. So the first pieces of insulated ceramic tile are being installed as the actual floor these steam turbines will be sitting on. More rovers are on the way. Every cycle generally sending 2 rovers down to continue to build out this whole system as well as the whole base. So we've got our vacuum area underneath input, but we even have this chamber ready. All I have to do is destroy these tiles once insulated ceramic has made its way across. But I can actually start designing the core of the nuclear reactor system. When some meteorites land, Again, I have these doors open, but no damage seems to be happening to either the ladders, the spaceships, or the rocket platforms. So as long as that's the case, I really don't see why. See, right there, boom, right through. No damage. What's the point of the bunker doors? But I do have things that have damaged in the past, so I'm wondering if it's just special meteorites, maybe? I will keep watching as I play through this. Just realized I mismeasured everything by one tile, so bringing everything over on this side over just by one tile. Okay, so I realized one thing that was causing a bit of an issue here. Not necessarily the rockets, not necessarily causing damage, but just blocking access from the dupes to be able to get back inside. So with most of the insulated tiles in place and destroying the tiles underneath, so they'll have access to the hot steam when we get to that point. So starting to build the pumps and the liquid vents in this area, absolutely every piece of equipment that is applicable is being made out of steel. Speaking of which, I should see someone producing some steel continuously because we're going to need quite a bit of that. Also need to keep up with the ceramic production for this whole system too. I've got enough ceramic to put in the floor, but now I'm having to get a little bit more for the insulated pipes. That's one big advantage of using the vacuum method here. I don't have to have as much ceramic, assuming that's the type of insulation that I would want to use. So this rover has been standing around forever, kind of doing this dance or crawl. Click on it. You can see it is trying to provide ceramic right on this particular tile, and it's the only thing that's not being built. No one else will supply it because they think that this rover is going to get there, but that rover is just stuck. I'm going to see what happens when I reload my game. And I've reloaded, and that rover finally is free. I think they're actually supplying ceramic at that particular location, but I guess they just changed jobs. Which is okay for me as long as somebody provides ceramic and that missing tile. Final touches are being made on the Research Reactor. When it goes in line, which it is right now, it's going to be automatically disabled because I put in this automation beforehand. I didn't want the dupes to actually load any material into it until I thought it was safe to do so. That's going to have some water go into it, so making that out of insulated tiles going in. I'm going to store water here. This is initially going to be loaded from outside in the base, but eventually all the water is going to come from the steam turbines, so I won't have to continually supply new water. We've got two pipes here, or pumps rather, that are going to be pumping the nuclear waste for this out. So they've got two different pipes. I actually have them distributing heat a little bit on the left and right wings before we're ultimately going to take them out in this zone and just dispose of them out in space. Ceramic production is slowing down due to lack of clay. So I'm just looking for several different pieces to cut out that I have been ignoring so far. Let's see if that's going to get us through the construction in this project. Also continuing to make sure more and more steel is produced as well. So we're loading water into this system. It's going to be dumped right here. Make sure I actually turn these pumps off, come to think of it, because I don't want those pumps to be pumping out water. Only want them to be on when the nuclear waste, is actually sitting here. And they're set to be able to take that nuclear waste over here, where I'm eventually going to be dumping them out in space. Starting the process of loading in some granite into this conveyor line. goal here is just simply to take some of the temperature, put that into the granite, high temperature here into the granite, and send it down to the different wings left and right, so that all the steam turbines have a chance to heat up or be able to consume really hot steam and produce power. So the dupe that has been here, and I've kind of honestly forgotten about for the very longest time, has been enjoying some great food. They have oxygen in the air over here, so they can keep going. They produce over 600 data banks. I think this is a record for any dupe I've ever had up in space in one go, for sure. On the downside, carbon dioxide is starting to build up, so we want to put a carbon skimmer here, but I think it's also long enough time that this dupe is spent up here. I think they can go down to the base, enjoy a little bit of time down there for a little bit. So I have 4 Radbolt generators with reflectors sending Radbolts in this direction. I'm only going to have them on if this radiation sensor actually senses that there's enough radiation, meaning that this thing is actually on. Otherwise, it's going to cut power to all of them. Having some buttons installed so I can control exactly how many Radbolt generators I want to have running at a given time. We've got the granite line going around both the left and the right side, visiting the center, and then the 2 ends of this whole system. Put in the aqua tuners. That's what's gonna be keeping the top of these steam turbines nice and cool, so they'll continue to run. Because if they overheat, well, this whole thing is not going to be looking so well. Dumping some liquid on top of these guys just to help the temperature exchange between the buildings and the rest of the environment. And then also loading a water line that's going to go act as a coolant all the way through here. Thought about using polluted water or brine, but it's just so far out of the way, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to keep these appropriate temperature. Well, I better, because if I don't, this whole system could be very, very messy in a future episode. So right now we have a cooling line that is running the entire length of this system. Every time it passes by an aqua tuner, its temperature gets taken and decides whether it needs to go in or not for some cooling. Oh, just realized that we're missing something here. But second opportunity to do another cooling here, and I've got the actual output, that one working. And then it's going to go and visit every single steam turbine, making sure that stays nice and cool, and go through the process of optional cooling when needed. We've got new protective gear, having oxygen go into these guys, and this is going to be the new suits the dupes are going to wear when they go into this zone, because it's going to become highly radioactive once we turn the research reactor on, of course. I've sealed this area off now, and just knocking out some of this bissolite. We're going to put a research station down here to take advantage of all the Radbolts that are going to be firing out of this. So we now have 3 distinct zones in this area. So most of the spot here is only going to be accessible when dupes put on these extra protective suits made out of lead. And that is going to give them access to the whole top area. They can even go inside the core of this, and they can go underneath and do some construction maintenance down here if need be. I did block them out of this area. Essentially, this is where Radbolts are going to be firing through, so didn't want to see any dupes in there. Actually, let me get rid of those 3 ladders to be absolutely certain we don't see dupes standing here and having Radbolts smashed in their face. Having the same protection put in on this side. So over here, this is where just the regular Atmo suits can go. So dupes can put on those Atmo suits and do construction in this zone if need be. And then there's this zone. This is just the regular zone, no special suits needed. This is where the research equipment is going to be put in pretty soon. Well, we've got the cooling system going. We've got lots of water in this system. I think we are ready to hit the go button. So what's that going to do? That's going to essentially tell the dupes it's awaiting for enriched uranium, which I have some on the base. One of the dupes, I don't know if that's this dupe or not. No, it'll be someone else. But one of the dupes is going to pick up enriched uranium and put on one of these suits and throw that inside here. And this whole thing is going to get started producing heat. And once I decide to put on some of these, it'll actually produce lots of Radbolts as well. So the system has started. Dupe is running away quickly. I see lots of green dots in the air. We check the radiation level. It is significant in this zone. Meaning that if I switch one of these guys on, it's going to start producing Radbolts. This water is going to be eventually turning to steam, which is going to be generating lots of power for us on our base. So there it is. As long as I can keep water going into this, I don't have this thing overpressured, and hopefully these mesh tiles are going to help with that, get liquid off of this system. These pumps, once I detect or notice that there's nuclear waste, I'll manually turn those on. And the steam turbines are they're gonna do two things. They're gonna dump water on top of this to keep the machine itself cool, but they're also gonna bring in water to resupply in the actual input. New water is now coming in here, but once more water comes in from the steam turbines, that's gonna cut that off. I don't want a continual supply of water because this thing will become overpressured. I've had that happen before, so trying to avoid that situation. Well, there it is. The nuclear reactor, or the research reactor rather, is online, functioning, and that's going to be future power and Radbolts for this base. So here is the latest laboratory taking advantage of the Radbolts. Just going to indicate to the dupes here to actually not use this one over here. But the dupes won't be able to actually cross this line here, and that's important because I have Radbolts set up to be shooting down here. Now, Radbolts will only actually shoot down here when this actually indicates that it's in need of Radbolts. So otherwise, the Radbolts are just going to fire up here, and eventually that's going to rip a hole between these two tiles and dig that out. Actually, no, I don't think that's going to be the case, though I'd be surprised. Maybe actually that's how it works. I'm pretty sure they're just going to continually annihilate themselves at that point. Let's look over here. Oh, first little bit of nuclear waste sitting right there. Lots of radiation, and this guy should be... That doesn't have power. Okay. Yeah, that hasn't actually been plugged in yet. Whoops. We need to do this really quick, dupes. And rovers shouldn't take them too long. But that's an essential piece, because we're not going to actually get any power if we don't plug those guys in. So it has not taken long for just a little bit of steam to start erupting. Not enough to turn the steam turbines on, but we're just getting started. So power now is in this area. You can see this Radbolt generator very quickly charging up. And that's going to shoot the first Radbolt out of this new system. And that's going to head towards, hopefully, our material study terminal. There it is. Radbolt is on their way, reflecting round and round. And being shot into here. There it is. Material study terminal has some Radbolts to do some analysis on. It's going to take a little bit of time before these steam turbines generate power. But with lots and lots of power on the way, and Radbolts, we've got pretty much unlimited research. That with the plus the hundreds of databanks that we've generated with this guy here, we can do pretty much anything. I think the next priority for this space is to look at all the hydrogen that's building up and find a system for essentially producing oxygen and pushing it in. Didn't want to do that at this point because I was a little bit cautious of power production, but that's soon going to be a problem of the past. Alright, huge piece was developed. Now lots still left to be done. So hopefully I will see you in a future episode where I'll continue on developing this space on a very strange asteroid that has been tipped over. Thank you everyone for watching. Thanks for subscribing and liking, and hopefully I will see you in a new video very soon. Till then.